You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 75 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, but you already knew that. And as always, I am with the awe-inspiring Jeff Gargis.
Awe-inspiring?
You are so awe-inspiring because when we have been asking our network on social media, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or you're just listening and you want to send me an email, they've been sending me all these words. And Jess Hamilton over on Facebook really truly believes that you are awe-inspiring. And so even though I don't agree with her, I still need to use the word.
Well, thank you, Jess, and not so much you, Ray. What's the handle? What's Jess's handle? Let's give her a shout out.
You know, Jess connected with us over on Facebook, so you just can look up Jess Hamilton. I bet she is connected with our team, so she is a wonderful educator with a really cute profile pic.
Well, Jess, when you hear this, make sure you tweet out at Ray and I and say, hey, it was me, here's my handle, because then we'll have it, and then we can retweet it back out. How's that?
Exactly.
So, how you doing over there?
I'm good. I'm a little tired today, but, I'm on my first day of summer break, and I'm hoping to catch up on sleep, like in July.
Yeah, but not a lot of rest today. So, can I embarrass you and, make you turn red for a second?
No, but thanks for asking.
I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm just super pumped up and proud of you because you're like, hey, I'm on summer break, but no rest for the wicked. You literally worked all weekend. It was driving me crazy because I'm getting texts and stuff. And I'm like, Ray, you just finished up school. Can you stop working for a weekend? But you didn't. And that's why we love you. But then today we're doing this free summer free PD, free summer PD. I don't know how to say it.
Maybe if you say it a few more times, it'll catch on.
We're doing a series in our private Facebook group of a bunch of free PD sessions, and you're running all of them, which is really cool. But the first one was today, and I just kind of want to give a shout out so that all of our listeners can just, kind of bask in the awesomeness that is Ray and how amazing you are. But it was an amazing session, and I wanted to touch on two things about it. One is just to give you a little pat on the back shout out because you did an awesome job talking about stuff. You were talking about the grid method today, which was really cool. But also a huge shout out to, we had a lot of teachers watching this free PD, commenting, having conversations back and forth with each other, asking questions and stuff. And most of these teachers are either just getting on their summer break or right a week before or whatever. They should be tired. They should be done, right? I mean, but here they are. They're just continuing to learn, which is why I just love our audience and these teachers that we have in our PLN and our community, is that they just literally never stop trying to learn. They literally live the Teach Better mindset every single day, and I just was super proud this morning doing that. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep gushing over you and how amazing you are in our community, but I was really pumped up about it. So with that being said, if you can
wait, Jeff, I have to say really quick. First of all, we're done talking about Ray. Thank you very much. However, I was shocked by the amount of educators as well, because we did this free summer series because we had a poll where people voted that they wanted that. And so I was so proud of educators advocating for what they wanted support in. And so when they said, hey, could you do some free professional development? I actually think I was with you. We looked at each other and we were like, yeah, that'd be super easy. Why haven't we thought of that? So when I woke up bright and early and was live with, it was amazing, the discussion. So I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who participated because you truly made my morning. I so appreciate you.
And it was super cool that there was a bunch of questions where I would go to try to comment and question, and someone else already answered it for them. That group is just so cool. So if you haven't gotten our group, I'm going to pitch that real quick. If you aren't in our private Facebook group, you need to go over to Facebook and look up Teach Better Team. It'll show up, or you can literally go to facebook.com/groups/teachbetterteam. and get in there. It's a great group, an amazing community of teachers rocking and stuff. But Ray, since we're talking about it, since I brought it up, can you give us a highlight of like what's to come in that? Like how many more of these do we have, and when are they happening? Do you have that?
I can get that somehow. No, I mean, here's the deal. Like, I can pull up the dates as I talk, but the reality is that they asked for summer professional development. So we decided to do it once a week all summer long. So today's, well, I guess now that this is being recorded a week later, but the first session was on the grid method, which is that mastery framework we do a ton of training on. Everybody wanted to kind of hear that overview. So we did like, I think, an hour and 20 minutes just talking through the ideas and answering questions in the comments. The rest of the topics will be, I mean, literally everything. We're talking about Webb's depth of knowledge, which is how to scaffold information. We're talking about feedback, grading, assessment. We're going to talk about how to implement a mastery-focused classroom, like the language shift. We'll talk about communicating with others, administrators, parents, I mean, everybody. I'm really excited for July 8th. We're going to talk about motivation and engagement in the classroom, how you can build that in and really keep that as a student ownership component rather than you throwing glitter around the room and hoping that it sticks. And then our last two are going to be the professional network that we are encouraging our educators to build so that you don't feel alone when you're trying to reach your students more deeply, but kind of feeling like you're out on an island. And then the last one will be July 22nd, where we are going to talk about setting up your year. So how do you take all of these ideas that we've brainstormed and talked through and actually make them a tactical approach that you're going to implement in August? So I'm really excited, but I'm really excited that we're doing something that they asked for. That's why I'm excited.
You know what else I'm really excited about?
Yes, and then I want to hear that, and then I have an idea. So tell me what you're really excited about.
I was going to say I'm really excited about this episode that we just did.
Oh, well, this episode was really cool.
Do you want to share your idea first? Or do you
Well,
want to talk
yeah,
about the episode?
I wanted to know if, because I'm doing these live sessions, can you buy me coffee every morning? Like, that's what I was going to ask. Like, when I do the next one next week, can I, like, expense the coffee charge?
Yeah, of course. I like how right now is when you ask me that. Like, this is the appropriate time to do that.
Absolutely, because now it's on record.
No, but I'm super excited. That's fine. I'm really excited about this episode. This was a great one. This was a fun one because we know that Bradford Hubbard is coming out to the Teach Better conference in November, which is super cool. But we were really excited to get him on. You connected with him a while back and have been talking about how great he was. You're trying to get him on the podcast. We got him on the podcast. He came on. He did not disappoint. So Brad he's currently serving as the assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction in Community High School District 117. He's formerly been a principal and assistant principal at those schools, and then also the dean of students. He was a science teacher, a wrestling coach, and has been in a total of, I think, 3 or 4 different districts throughout his career. So a lot of experience under his belt, a lot of different positions, really from the classroom up through the administration pieces and stuff. So a really cool outlook on the world of education and his experiences and what he's brought. And I really loved, right off the bat, he shares sort of something that happened in his life that changed the way he looks at his position and his job and his role. And from that moment on, I was just hooked. And then when he gets later into the coins, I'm just going to leave it at that he talks about, I was just, that story just, I didn't know how to reply after it, so I just went into the next question.
I was that good. Truly speechless.
Yeah, so real quickly, is there anything you want listeners to really focus on when they get into this episode here?
There was a ton of value in this. Brad is an incredible educator. You have to really listen to that success story because, yes, there's value, but it's just inspiring. And I just want you to have that moment of inspiration that every educator strives for. So please, please enjoy.
Let's get in episode 75 with Bradford Hubbard. All right, we are here and we're talking with Brad Hubbard. And Brad, man, we are super excited to have you on the podcast. I know you and Ray met up, I believe, in person a while back. Maybe not. I think I might be confused. But she's been like waiting for you to be on the podcast. We also know that you're coming out to the Teach Better conference in November, so we've all been super excited because we were really excited about your session and what you're going to be bringing to the conference. And now getting you on the podcast now is just really, really cool. So we're pumped up. You already told us you're pumped up. So I think there's gonna be a whole lot of pumped upness, if that's a word, going on here. But first, man, I just want to see like how you feeling right now.
I feel great. Super excited to be here. Honored and humbled to have been asked to participate, and literally been counting down the days since I was asked and registered this afternoon to be able to talk to you guys. And so I'm really excited to be here and share a little bit about what we're doing, and super excited to be accepted as a presenter out in November as well to continue to share my story and talk a little bit about what we're doing here in District 117.
Ray, do you like how I asked him how he was doing, but I had already told everyone that he was pumped up, so like my question was completely irrelevant.
Yeah, you also like pretended like Brad and I aren't really good friends, which was like cute because I think you
Well,
were worried about feeling left out. But like, what's going on, dude? Come on.
okay, two things. One, clarify for me. You did meet, right? Didn't you? Did you meet
Yeah,
at a conference in person, right?
we met at ICE in
Okay, and
February.
then secondly, and most importantly, I think we've already established that Brad and I are better friends than you guys are. So, like, regardless of
No
meeting in
way.
person, it doesn't really matter.
No way,
Well,
dude.
go on though. You just believe whatever you need to believe, right?
You know, Jeff, whatever helps you sleep at night. But let's get back to Brad. Brad, I want to, regardless of how much we're picking on Jeff, I do want to make sure that our audience is able to learn about you because even though we joke, you are an incredible person that we are so thrilled to be featuring today on Teach Better Talk. So let's take a minute and I want you to tell us, how do you respond when someone asks what you do?
That's a great question. It's evolved over the years. I think when I used to be asked that question, I talked about being an educator or being a teacher or wanting to be the inspiration in the lives of students. And that the answer to that question changed back in 2009 when we had our first daughter, Kala. She was born in November, and I had an opportunity to take a couple days off work right around Thanksgiving when she was born. And I returned to work, and at the time I was serving as dean of students at a high school just north of Chicago. And I had been in the dean's office for a couple of years at that point. When I returned to work, I had a student that got sent down to my office, and I was looking at her from across the table, and I had a good relationship with her, had seen her in the office a number of times, and was going to address an issue with her, and I rendered myself completely speechless. For the first time, I had no idea what to say to the student who I was supposed to be discussing this discipline issue with. And it's because for the first time in my career, I was looking at one of my students or one of our students as somebody's daughter, as somebody's sister, as somebody's pride and joy and all that stuff. And it fundamentally for me changed the way that I look at education in general, but specifically what it is that I'm here to do. And so I would say that right now, what I do for a living is I try to ensure that we create the conditions and have the culture and the climate in our schools where every student feels like they belong. Every student feels as though that they're loved and that they've got ample opportunity to explore their passions and find success. And the reason that I'm so adamant about that equity piece is that I'm convinced the only way that I can ensure that my two daughters, Cal and Bryn, can experience, participate in, contribute to, and benefit from a truly equitable system is to relentlessly fight for that for all students. A system that welcomes, includes, engages, and serves all kids. And in District 117, our mission statement is to ignite passion and discovery in every student. And when we say every, we mean every. And when we say all, we mean all. And it's the only way that I can guarantee that my kids will experience an equitable system is if I relentlessly fight for one for everybody. And so I would say that what I do is fight for equitable cultures and environments and conditions for students to be successful.
Brad, I love how you connect that and sharing the story of how that having your daughter flip the way you look at things. And I so relate to that because every time we're out and we're working and doing everything that we do and working with teachers, working with schools, when we're getting together and spending hours together trying to game plan and working, when we're fighting as a team, arguing or stressed out or whatever it might be, I'm always constantly thinking one of my biggest whys is the fact that I want to change the way education is for my kids as they're coming through. So like I just totally connect with it, and I know a bunch of people also just connected with you on that. I love that that's your reason and that flipped. So, and the mission statement, spot on. I'm loving it. So I want to talk. A lot of people would look at someone who's been in the positions that you've been in and is currently serving the way you're at, and thinks, oh, this is a guy who's had a lot of success. He's done really well. He's probably always been good at what he does. And I know that that's never the case. There's always a challenge getting to wherever you are. There's always ups and downs and stuff. So I kind of want to see if you can take us there with you to a time where you've had some struggle, a failure, a challenge that you've had to overcome. Tell us what happened. How did you overcome it? And what did you learn from that situation?
Absolutely. I think, I fail every day, and I've learned way more from my failures than I have from any textbook or blog post or course that I've taken. I think failure is a part of learning, and I think as a educator or educational leader, you have to take opportunities to try things and to take risks and to fail, but ultimately reflect and learn on them. There are two real quick ones that come to mind, and I think have really shaped kind of who I am. Really early on in my career as a first year teacher in Chicago public schools, I was so confident going in that I was a master at my content area, and I truly understood the content that I was teaching. But my first year of teaching, I really, really struggled as an educator, and became really frustrated and down on myself that I wasn't maybe meant for what I was trying to embark upon. And I was blessed to have a couple of mentors at that school that took me under their wing and really introduced me to the idea that without relationships with your students, knowing your content is for naught. And I was so confident and so focused on creating lesson plans that tried to generate some excitement and deep learning opportunities for my kids, that I had totally missed the boat, that the fundamental and foundational level, most important thing in education is building relationships with kids. And my students didn't really care how much I knew until I had an opportunity to demonstrate to them how much I cared and how much I wanted to get to know them. And through that mentoring process, those mentors that took me under their wing and told me that you really have to get to know these students before you can teach them. It just fundamentally changed my perspective on education and really introduced the idea that relationships and care and love are really the foundations of education. The content comes a lot more natural and comes after that. And so that was an early career failure that I think I really struggled with, but I was blessed with some mentors that helped me process and work through that. The other failure that I had, and I've never really talked about this, and so I'll make it public here, and I hope that this is a safe space. But my fourth year of teaching, I was at a brand new school, and I was really struggling with classroom management in my last period of the day, and I was really frustrated one day. And my response was a response that I guess I didn't know better at the time, and I'm super embarrassed to admit. But I had every student put everything away, and I gave this pop quiz to prove to the fact that you're not paying attention and you're not learning what I'm trying to teach you. And after that, my department chair had fielded a couple of phone calls from parents, because not only did I give that assessment, but then I would argue that I belittled students based on their performance on that in front of everybody. And my department chair came to me and really challenged me to think about the impact that had. And I had a couple parents reach out to me, and then I had a couple students articulate to me that afternoon and the next morning, how much that impacted them, and how they felt about that scenario. And that was a huge failure on my part, and one that I'm embarrassed about, and one that I think about almost all the time. And it's this idea that it's my responsibility to leave my students in a better place every single day than when they walked into my classroom. And I have no power, no authority, and no business allowing a student to feel less than or unaccepted when after they have an interaction with me, whether it's in my classroom when I was a teacher, in my office when I was a dean, in my school when I was a principal, or in this district as the assistant superintendent. And that was a huge failure on my part, and one that kind of haunts me to this day, but really drives home this point that relationships are really important. And it's absolutely imperative that regardless of the situation, every single day, in every single interaction, no matter how big or how small it is, the person on the other end of that interaction has to walk away better than when they walked in. And I think that has really challenged me. It challenged me at the time, and it's challenged me throughout the rest of my career to make every interaction matter.
Wow. leaving them better than when you found them, and leaving better every time they interact with you. I love that. Like that is, I'm reminded, Ray. I don't know if you're gonna remember this. Someone shared one of our like best piece of advice that they ever got was one of our guests previously was from their father who said, "Leave every room brighter than when you went into it." I can't
Yeah.
remember who it was. I'm gonna look it up, but like that's what I was thinking of there. And it's the same thing. I was like, it's just that impact on their lives is to make them better. And one thing I hope everyone who's listening is hearing is that Brad was not saying that you have to leave them perfect or that it
Right.
has to be a massive thing, right? They just need to be better than when you found them, which means it doesn't. And you touched on it. Doesn't have to be a massive impact. It doesn't have to be this big thing. Just you need to always be focused on impacting them in a positive way and leaving them better. And I love the not letting them feel like they aren't accepted or they aren't
100%.
acceptable. Awesome stuff, man. Loving it.
Hey everyone, while we take a quick break, I just want to share with you how much I appreciate hearing from all of you about how much you're enjoying our Teach Better Talk podcast. If you're listening right now on a cell phone, make sure you take a screenshot and share it with us on social media with hashtag #TeachBetter. Don't forget to tag Jeff and I because we absolutely want to be a part of your journey listening to Teach Better Talk.
I do want to touch, you said I hope this is a safe space. So as long as you feel like broadcasting on 16 different platforms to thousands of people is a safe space, then yeah, I think you're good.
Fair enough. I'm okay with that.
So Teach Better Talk exclusive there. First time talking about it. I love it. So all right.
I love when we get exclusives.
I do. So let's flip it now. Let's talk about a success you've had. And this can be big or small, but tell us what happened. Why was it a success? And then what did you take away from that?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories, and so I feel the need to share it here. About 6 years ago, we had a professional learning day coming up. It was the second semester of my first year as principal at one of our two schools, and our superintendent, something had come up, and he was going to be unable to join us. It was a day of learning where we had some students joining us and some outside agencies represented, and all of our teachers there. And he challenged me to kind of open up and welcome the entire district to the day of learning. And so I challenged myself to try to come up with something inspirational and something to really, kick off the day of learning with everybody in a positive way. And I struggled with what that message was going to be. It was my first opportunity to present in front of the entire district staff. And I really lucked out. I was in my car on the way to work the morning that this happened. And I was listening to NPR, and there was a story about General Martin Dempsey, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for the United States at the time. And they were talking about our involvement in Syria and Iraq and his involvement in commanding troops there. But then the narrator kind of shifted to the story about on General Dempsey's desk, he's got a wooden box. And on the top of the box are the words "Make It Matter" inscribed on it. And inside of the box are the pictures of 130 plus soldiers that lost their lives under his supervision when he was in charge of operations in Iraq. And so every morning he goes into his office and he opens up the box and takes out 3 pictures and places them in his breast pocket and carries those pictures throughout the course of the day to remind him of who he's working on behalf of and the impact of his decisions. And ultimately what matters most is the experiences and outcomes of those men and women that serve underneath him. And I think, I've never been in the military, and I don't want to offend anybody by drawing any sort of congruency between what it is that the men and women that serve our country do and what it is that we do in education. But what I tried to do on stage that day was draw a parallel between that story and what we do in education in taking an opportunity to inspire our teachers. And I would argue at the time, what I said was, if I had a wooden box on my desk with the word "Make It Matter" in it, whose pictures would be inside that box? And I would argue that it's the pictures of the students that for some reason feel invisible, no sense of belonging, unseen, unheard, and those students that opt for no other reason, no other vision for what they can attain, the students that ultimately drop out or that we're not serving. And so those are the students who I ought carry in my breast pocket to remind me of who we're working on behalf of, and remind me of the enormity of the responsibility that we take on as educators. And so I got up that day and shared that story and encouraged everybody in the room to make it matter. And after that, I felt really good about how that presentation went. but then that quote stuck with me over and over and over again. And I wanted to find a way to continue to perpetuate the idea of the importance of making it matter. And whatever it is that meant to any of our stakeholders, every opportunity that I got, I would stand on stage in front of parents and community members and students and tell them to find a way to make it matter. And so over the course of that first summer after that had happened, in close connection to what some of the military personnel do, is they have these challenge coins. And so I worked with an organization to have a challenge coin developed. And on the challenge coin has my name and our school logo and our school motto at the time. And in the back of it is inscribed the words "Make It Matter." And I utilized those challenge coins to recognize people in our community and people in our schools, our students, our staff, our administration that go above and beyond and do things, whether it be a big thing or a small thing, and truly make it matter. And so I had an opportunity on my institute day, first day of school, my second year as principal. All my challenge coins are numbered, and I had an opportunity to issue numbers 1, 2, and 3 to my wife and my 2 daughters, because in reality, they're the 3 that support me in my work and allow me to try to make it matter on behalf of other people's kids. And so they're the ones that have relentlessly supported my decision to continue my education and to continue the work of trying to find equitable spaces and create learning environments for all students. And so it was a really special moment that I got to issue those challenge coins to them. I gave out just under 300 of them when I was principal. Now that I'm at the district office, I've had a new coin created. I've given out 147 of them so far. And the coolest story and how I know that this is a win, and one of the ways when you asked, what's a success, is 2 weeks ago on Sunday, we had graduation here in District 117, and I was sitting on stage at the graduation of Antioch Community High School, and there was 2 MCs, and they were up there and walking the crowd and the graduates kind of through the process of the graduation. And then when we paused to have this piece played by the band, the 2 MCs came and sat on stage with the administration and the Board of Education. And at that time, the kid that had sat next to me was a student when I was principal at Antioch. And I took out my phone and I said, "Hey, can we take a quick selfie?" And I felt like that was a cool opportunity to do it. And he said, "Hold on a second." And he reached underneath his graduation gown and he pulled out a challenge coin that I had given him 2.5 years ago and said, "I felt like this should be in the picture." And for him to articulate then when he posted it on Instagram that was one of his most memorable moments in high school, was receiving that from me. I understand that the impact that quote has had on me is also having a residual impact on those that I'm sharing it with and trying to perpetuate it with through the use of the coins. And so I would think the challenge coins and the quote "Make It Matter" have been a thing that have allowed me in 3 really short words kind of epitomize what it is I'm trying to do and challenge other people to be on board and do the same things.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That story, Jeff, we need to get in our cars right now. I am going to this district and I'm going to get my own coin. I got to get one now. Amazing. Brad, something I've loved about your stories, of your fail story or your, incredible success story, is that it's always student focused. And this is common in education now. I think it's this growing idea. It's kind of, it continues to fuel my fire because I'm seeing educators make a shift from content-driven educators to student-focused educators. And it doesn't mean that the content is not there. It doesn't mean that there's not other elements of the school that we're ensuring exist, but we are really driving the force and not only building relationships with students, but really taking them into consideration as we are facilitating learning. And I'm so inspired by those stories that you shared, and I continue to be inspired by your focus on relationships, because I really believe that is going to be a key success point in a lot of educators' lives when they start focusing on building those relationships. Because like you said earlier, you can't teach a student that you don't know. And so you need to take the time to get to know them. So I want to ask you, outside of that incredible message that you're truly living and breathing every day, what else is exciting you about education and all that you do?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think, what excites me the most is that, this idea of working toward and being explicit about our goals with respect to equity, and ensuring that we are starting to really grapple with the social emotional wellness of our students are the two things that have me most excited. I think, I've spent 16 years in my career figuring it out, that relationships are most important, that your relationships with your students are huge, and the way that a student identifies with or feels that sense of belonging to the school in general, but more specifically to the people in the school, is the most fundamental critical work that we're doing in schools. I love the fact that you're right. There's this shift now of kind of not away from content necessarily, but it's content and it's content and relationships and equity and social emotional wellness and well-being. And our district has been really, really explicit about putting wellness and every means every and all means all right into our strategic plan and right into our mission statement. And we're looking in the mirror about practices and policies, and whether or not they're equitable and whether or not they best serve the social emotional needs of our students. And so, we've stood up some committees. We've done a lot of professional development in trying to increase our capacity to critically evaluate our system. And I'm super proud of our Board of Education and our superintendent, our staff and our students, our community that's really embraced this idea that it's about creating a conducive environment for all kids to feel welcomed and heard and seen and loved. And the fact that just really is congruent with my personal beliefs and my personal experience, that's what's got me so fired up every single day to continue to fight that fight and make those inroads, and create a system that's meeting the need and serving all kids.
Something I'm really envious of is this idea that it's not just the unit office working on something. It's not just the principals working on something. It's not just the teachers working on something or the students inspiring something, but really having that universal approach to the entire learning community, the entire district community, focusing on these important concepts that we need to instill in our schools. I'm so envious. I don't know that all teachers are in a district right now, in a building right now, where their beliefs that students should be the focus is actually echoed all the way up the chain. And I love that is something that you're really instilling in not just the district you're in, but in the schools that exist in your community. So what piece of advice do our listeners need, whether they're teachers or administrators, or maybe they're just starting an education, a new role? How do we take this idea, this student-focused idea of creating equity and building in SEL as a purposeful, integrated component of our content? What advice do those people need?
Yeah, I think that there's two things. One is continue to build a professional network. A professional learning network has served me on so many different levels and has allowed me to create relationships and partnerships with people that otherwise I wouldn't have met. And whether that's on Twitter or whether that's networking, going to conferences, I think all educators have to be plugged in. And if you're not reading and learning and sharing thoughts and exchanging ideas, a lot of the profession and a lot of the work will pass you by if you're not on the front lines of creating those networks and really leveraging those relationships to increase your own capacity, but also share your thoughts and opinions and work. And it's this continued collective fight to relentlessly fight for these environments that are serving all students. And my daughters don't go to the district, and they won't come to the district where I currently work. And so my why is about creating a system that they can benefit from. But I only can think that if we're 10 miles north of where they're going to be, if we're doing the right work and those schools see what we're doing and we're partnering and networking with them, that their experience will be improved by virtue of that. And I saw, my why is tightly tied to their experiences, even though, my leadership and my work isn't going to directly impact them. And so I really believe that people need to build a professional network. And the other, there's a poem that I heard actually Sir Ken Robinson reference in one of his speeches, one of his TED Talks. And I went back and I read the poem quite a few years ago, and I utilize it in new teacher orientation, and I have it read aloud when we do new teacher orientation. It's a W.B. Yeats poem, "The Claws of Heaven," and in it talks about somebody saying, "If I had all the money in the world, I would give you everything that you ever wanted, but I, being poor, have only my dreams, and I spread beneath your feet my dreams and tread lightly." And ultimately that poem ends with this idea of treading lightly. And so I have that poem read at new teacher orientation. And then I talk about the magnitude and the enormity of the responsibility that we have as educators, to tread lightly, because each and every day, in every single interaction, no matter how big or how small we have with students, with our teachers, with our community members, we as educators are walking upon people's dreams and futures and aspirations. And we have to tread really, really lightly, because in every interaction, no matter how long or how short that interaction is, you can fundamentally change the trajectory of a student's experience, of a student's perspective, and in some cases, and in a lot of cases, a student's life. And I think that it's absolutely imperative that our new teachers, our veteran teachers, our administrators, it doesn't matter. They understand this idea that this is an incredible responsibility and an incredible honor to serve kids, and we have to absolutely tread lightly in everything we do.
I love that. I'm not even gonna add to it. I think you rocked it, dude. I'm gonna go right into the next thing here. So let's have some fun. You ready to have some fun with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that this entire thing hasn't been fun so far, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just made it sound like we haven't had any fun. But we're going to do the next 6 questions, and your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to roll?
Done. Yep.
All right. What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
Pear Deck. I love watching our educators utilize it in the classroom to inspire, engage, and just interact with kids. I've seen it used in so many cool, creative ways, and so I'd say Pear Deck.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
I'm reading Radical Inclusion, actually written by General Martin Dempsey, who the Make It Matter quote came from, and he co-wrote it with Ori Brothman. Really great book about the importance of messaging and combating digital echo.
Awesome. And I'm gonna challenge you on this one. Who do we need to follow on Twitter today? But give me 2.
2.
2.
All right, I'll go 2. I will go Adam Walcom and Mandy Frolik.
Ooh, 2 good ones. And give us the best YouTube channel or website for educators.
Well, the Teach Better obviously is a great resource for everybody. Alice Keeler's got a teacher tech YouTube channel that's awesome. And Jennifer Gonzalez with the Cult of Pedagogy, just awesome resources for teachers.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Have to celebrate all wins, big and small. Have to take the time to write notes of praise and thanks and make positive phone calls home. I really encourage teachers to get into other teachers' classrooms, and you have to schedule time for yourself. If you have to put it on your calendar, so be it, but make sure you got some you time.
And what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Make it matter. I think I stumbled on that one, and it's one that drives me. Tread lightly, I think, is a huge piece that I took away from that poem that was originally shared with me by a TED Talk. And then my favorite band, Mumford & Sons, has a song that talks about this idea of love with urgency, but not with haste. And I would argue that in education, we have to love, serve, lead, grow, change, develop, improve. We have to do everything with a lot of urgency, but not with haste.
Wow.
That might be one of my favorites. I know that's a really good one. And it's a Mumford & Sons. I mean, come on, that's great.
Right?
I loved all your, I thought the routines were spot on too. The celebrating wins, regardless what they are, the notes of praise and thanks, positive phone calls home, get in the classroom, schedule your time. Like, you're doing all right, man. You're doing all right.
Trying.
Brad, I am just still sitting here, just taking everything that you've shared in. I've so enjoyed your stories and your dedication to students, and you really give me hope that that there is incredible leadership out there doing incredible things with students, because you always hear the horror stories, right? There's all these horror stories about people not being student focused. And oh my gosh, I just feel like you filled up my bucket of, yes, we have a lot of people out there working for the betterment of students. And I love being a part of just that circle of people that are really inherently dedicated to that. So our last question has to do with not just enjoying this now, but hoping that our listeners really take in the value forever. So how can they connect with you?
Sure. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Hubbard Bradford. I've got a website that I blog on, not nearly as frequently as I should, but I've got a website on there that I think will be in the show notes. And then I would love to meet and greet and present in November, Akron, Ohio, 8th to 9th, the Teach Better Conference. Come and check it out, and I would love to connect with all the listeners.
Oh,
Jeff,
I love
did you know we were having a conference, Jeff?
We are having a conference, and I love that we didn't even have to ask him. He plugs the conference. That's awesome. That's great.
Well, he's
stuff.
plugging it because his session's going to be awesome. Did you just
Heck
hear
yeah.
this podcast recording?
Yeah, no kidding. If they listen to this podcast episode and don't go register just to come see Brad, I don't know what's wrong with you. Honestly.
There's no hope for them.
But all of you listening, you can get all the links, resources, everything we mentioned in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as the really important links for connecting with Brad. So make sure you head over and get all that in the show notes. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to ask you to take it one step further. Think of 3 of your colleagues who need to hear amazing stories like Brad has been sharing, and share this podcast with them. And you know what, Brad, since you mentioned the conference, let's do this too. If you head over to teachbetterconference.com, use the discount code podcasttalk and save $50 on either of the 2-day registrations, and you can thank Brad for bringing that up, and we will have that going. Man, Brad, this has been a killer episode. Awesome. Super excited to have you on. Now even more excited for having you out to Ohio and the conference in November, man. We're just really thankful for everything that you're doing and what you bring to the world of education and what you're doing for your kids, and really appreciate you taking some time and hanging out with us tonight, man.
Honored and humbled to do it. I really excited. Thank you for having me.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.